Downton Abbey returns on the big screen with Downton Abbey 3, Downton Abbey the Grand Finale. As a film buff, I tend to approach these TV to film continuations with a bit of skepticism. Too often they're stretched out specials masquerading as cinemas, kind of like an extended long episode, right? But Downton Abbey 3 manages to justify its place on the big screen, blending sweeping production designs, refined performances, and just enough sentimentality to leave longtime fans misty-eyed. And indeed, it's kind of like a love letter, right? To the series. If you were a fan of the series, there's going to be a lot of meat for you to chew on and sink your teeth into. The synopsis on IMDb reads, when Mary finds herself in a public scandal and the family faces financial trouble, the household grapples with the threat of social disgrace. The Crawleys must embrace change, with the next generation leading Downton Abbey into the future. And if you saw the trailers for this, you've kind of got the impression that this, well, indeed was going to be the final chapter, but it was going to end in such a way where everybody was going to have to move out of the Abbey, right? Out of Downton. And it's not really about that kind of. It's paying homage to everything that happened in the series, and it does close off in such a way that this could be like the definitive end. Like they're saying that it is. But it's also kind of left the door open for possibly just a bit more. The film, directed with, I would say, reasonable care here. Simon Curtis, he did a good job of the technical aspects, developing the characters. The pacing was just good for me. Now, this is the third movie in the franchise, right? So if you haven't watched the first two, it opens up with a little bit of a synopsis of the second movie. So it does try to catch people up. And if you are not that big of a fan, then you might struggle, but then why are you watching the third movie in the series, right? That's the way that I looked at it. It was cool seeing everybody back again. I saw it in a big theater with a whole bunch of other fans, and I would say try to see it like that because there's some winks and nods to things that you liked about the series, and it was just cool to see them move into this kind of final chapter of everything. Okay, so you got the impression that I liked it? And let's go over to the score sheet and start filling in some numbers for Downton Abbey, the grand finale, before we go over to the tomato meter and take a look at what's going on with that. Acting, directing, and story are out of a possible 2 points each. Cinematography and score are out of 1 point. Acting, overall, is serviceable. Now, is there anything great and grand in this? Well, Mary is always really good in this. Paul Giamatti comes on. Pretty good in this one. Like the entire cast, the one thing that Downton has always had in its favor was that it had this ensemble. So if somebody was not front and center, there was always these supporting characters around them to be like, oh yeah. And you got to develop those characters by watching and having this full series. Directing, as I said, was competent. I don't know if I would say that it was great, but I reserve the right to come back and talk about that in just a second. Story, it served the movie, but it was also touching at the end because they did do a sequence where they paid homage to the series. You get to see some returning characters that you in flashback form that you didn't really expect to see them reference in this movie. It didn't feel as grandiose as, say, the New Era movie, where they had like film sets and they went over to the French Riviera and stuff like that. It didn't feel as grand as that, but it still felt like Downton Abbey. That's the way I would say it. Cinematography, it's always been really good. I'm going to give a full point to that. The score, serviceable. That's like the soundtrack. So we're sitting at 5.5 right now. And I do reserve the right to come back to the directing. But I kind of do want to go over to the tomato meter here and see where we're sitting now for Downton Abbey, the grand finale. And 90% by critics, 96% by the audience. And this means that it's universally liked. And as you saw in my opening, I liked it. I had fun with this. And I don't know if I can come up that high. I mean, this is it's a good film. I really enjoyed it, but it's niche, right? In the sense that it's making a lot of references to material that has come before it. If you were sitting there and watching it without anything like some back knowledge, you might find some trouble with it. Let's go over to the critics here and see what people are saying. The grand finale goes out not with a bang, but also with not a whimper, but rather a polite wave goodbye. And yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Like, it does leave it open for maybe more story to tell, just not with this cast, not with the Downton Abbey cast. Like, I would totally go on and watch a series with the sisters up front, because they come to the front in this one. And I'm like, okay, do we need the rest of this cast here? Because I would watch Mary and Edith in a series, continue on, trying to honor their family legacy. That's the way that I would say. Going back to the critics here, returning director Simon Curtis still doesn't solve the television pacing and plotting problem of making a 2-hour film that doesn't feel like episodes tacked together, but at least gives each of the extensive beloved cast an arc and some closure. Yeah, they do that for sure. Some of the fans here, 5 out of 5. So yeah, we see from the score here, 96%, there's going to be very few people that won't like this, because it's got that core base, right? Movie was a wonderful way to end a 15-year series. Michelle Dockery was radiant in her gown. A beautiful tribute to the families at Downton Abbey. Yeah, indeed. For both the upstairs and the downstairs part of the manor. So sad to see the story is over. Is it though? Let's go over to some people who didn't like it. The Times UK. The film, directed by Simon Curtis, climaxes with a scene that is simultaneously grossly saccharine and deeply cynical, and is effectively a roll call to everyone unlucky enough to be cast in a long-running creepy class fantasy. What? See, now you're just exposing your bias with that, right? So we'll look at that one and kind of disregard it. I wanted some critique about the pacing or the story structure. London Evening Standard. It is an overstuffed sofa of a film, so plush you sink into it, and fear you may never escape its soporific pull. Soporific pull. So you see that some people they're trying to grasp at straws for this, but they are not really articulating exactly what it is that's bugging about them. They just don't like the pomp, I guess. The agnostic, meanwhile, can go back to pondering the puzzling appeal of the phenomenon predicated on giving us a glimpse into such a bland and boring world. Was it? So like that, see, that reeks like somebody who he didn't care about it even before he went to see it. That almost sounds like somebody who is just a journalist hired to cover the movie, right? Not somebody who's a fan of this series like me, but I'm going to try to give it to you guys as straight as I can when it comes to the film's execution of the story. It does meander on a little bit in the last part of the film, but again, they're closing off storylines here with this. It's kind of like, okay, this is the last scene with this character. This is the last scene with them. They're going to say goodbye. They're going to actually wrap things up, and they do it really well. They do it well enough where it's kind of like, I appreciate what they're doing. And I appreciate that this cast got a chance to come out and do this closing chapter to this story. I thought it was good. And if you're a fan of certain characters, like Thomas or something, then you might be a little bit let down that they're not in the forefront, because as I said, it's really the sisters that are in the forefront here in this one, and I got no problem with that, because I feel like if you were going to try to maybe continue this story in some fashion, it would be those two, and I would fully be on board with that. So let's go over to my score sheet again and wrap things up here for Downton Abbey, the grand finale, and look at the watchability factor. That's out of a possible 2 points each. If you are a fan of the series, you will want to check this out at least once in the theater. And if you just like this cast, you will want to watch it again. That's bumping us up to 7 out of 10. And I think I will go back to directing and bump that up to 1.5, because just the way that if the sentimentality was a little too much at the end, because they were dancing on that line of it becoming cheese, like, and really over the top sentimental of like, okay, now we're saying goodbye. And it was edited in such a way that, okay, we're moving quick enough through it that we're not lingering on it, and it's not becoming sappy. It's not becoming sappy. It's a way to say goodbye in a good, proper way, as one of the other critics articulated. 7.5 out of 10 for Downton Abbey. And no, I'm going to give a full point to the score as well, because when the score actually comes on, the familiar themes that we recognize, it's thumbs up. And actually, Downton Abbey, the grand finale, is something that I would have in my catalog. I could easily give full 2 points for watchability factor, but 8 out of 10 seems about right for me. Seems just. What do you guys think? Downton Abbey, the grand finale, did you see it in theaters? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and we will talk about it. All right, if you like this kind of thing, guys, also in theaters, we have The Long Walk, and from Stephen King and director Francis Lawrence of the Hunger Games movies. Kids have to walk until the last one is standing. We'll see how that goes. Let me know what you thought about these movies in the comments below, and we will talk about it. You're watching Mirror Domains.